Pinhole cameras, they've been around for a long time, and although some people say that they are a simple camera, they still do take photographs. When we get ready to make our pinhole camera, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a box or a container that has a removable lid, right? Because our photo paper will go inside, and then the lid is where the lens will be housed. When I say lens, it isn't a glass lens or a series of glass lenses. It's only going to be a small pinhole, hence the name pinhole camera. But it's always best to have a removable lid so you can get your photo paper in and out easily. To make sure that our photo is going to be taken really nice and balanced, we want to try and get the lens as close to the center of our camera as we possibly can. And what we're going to do then is we're going to take a ruler. The easiest way to find the center of this rectangle, this box, is we're going to take the ruler. We're going to place the ruler at the corners, corner to corner. All right, and I'm going to draw a line. I don't have to draw the entire length of the ruler because all I need is in the center of the box. I'm going to do the same thing the other way, the other corner to corner. And when I do that, that's going to say that I am right in the center of the box. Okay? Where that X is, where those two lines come together, that is the center of the box. Now the piece of metal that we're going to be using is about 1.5 inches square. So I want to cut 1 inch square in the center of my box. The easiest way that I've found to do that is I take my ruler, and it doesn't really matter which inch I'm using, but I take the 1/2 inch mark, as you see, right in between 7 and 8. Here's the 1/2 inch mark right here. And I'm going to put that on the center. I'm going to make a mark at 7, and I'm going to make a mark at 8. And then I'm going to take my hand, and I'm going to kind of make a T-square. I'm putting my fingers right up against the box here, and holding on to the ruler, I'm going to slide the ruler a little bit to one side. I'm going to make those marks at 7 and 8 again. And then I can connect those marks, going most of the way across the box. Actually, I've gone all the way across the box. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing the other way. I'm going to turn the box. I'm going to put, well, let's use the 10.5 right now because it's right there. Put that 10.5 right on the center of the X. Make a mark at the 10 and on the 11. Make that T-square with my hand again. Okay, putting it right up against the box and then sliding it up the box and put a mark at the 10, the 11. And now this time I don't have to go all the way across, just so I cross those first two lines that I made. And now what I have is a 1 inch square in the middle of the box. I can measure this anyway, and there it is. Now comes the fun part. If you haven't learned how to use an X-Acto knife first, this would be a good time to learn. The way I hold my X-Acto knife is I hold it just like I would a regular pencil. I do let it extend out a little bit further though than a regular pencil. I make sure that my X-Acto knife blade is always going to be perpendicular to my work surface. It's not leaning to one side or the other. If you're a skier or a skater, you know that if you lean to one side or the other on your skis and your skates or your skates are going to curve. Okay, they aren't going to go in a really nice straight line. And that's why we want to make sure we keep it straight up and down, and that when we pull on it, it's going to keep it in a nice straight line. This is a very sharp instrument. This entire side here is a razor. You can see the way that bevel is shining. And that's what does the cutting, the entire edge, not just a tip. Most people like to use just a tip, and they'll take their knife and they'll plunge it in like this and they'll saw at it. That's not the way to get a nice, even, clean line. What I do is I do put my tip toward the beginning of the line, and look at how the blade is contacting. I'm going to pull toward the center, And I'm going to do this several times. Place it right on the corner and pull toward the center. You notice I'm not taking it all the way across the line, just toward the center, and I'm slowly cutting through the box. I still haven't cut all the way through the box yet, but you can see I've got a nice line going right here. Okay, see that line? The blade's getting stuck in it. I'm going to do the same thing the other way. I'm not going to put my hand here because if I slip, I'm going to cut myself. I could hold it here, but I prefer to hold it off to the side. You can hear I am going through. Again, I'm not sawing, and I'm not going straight up and down. I'm just kind of taking it along the way. I'm going to do that on all four sides, and then we will be ready to move ahead. Finishing up with this last cut now. I'm going to make my last couple of passes here. You can see that flap's ready to fall in, but I'm still going to do it the same way as I've done it for the rest of the box. Well, there it goes. It's fallen inside. I'm going to take it apart right now, and you can see that what's happened is I have a nice cut there. I do have to finish off from the inside. I will give it just a little bit of a saw there. Okay? And it's really easy to clean these up by taking the knife, the X-Acto knife, and just kind of trimming along and finishing that up. Right, so I want to make sure that I've cleaned out along the edges and along the inside any of that sloppiness that may have occurred from when I cut the hole in the lid of the box. If I don't get rid of it, the lens won't sit flat and I'll have light leaks around the lens, and that's going to start to ruin my picture. There's only one last thing to do before I make the lens and put it in. I do have to make sure that I have a dark chamber. That dark chamber is going to ensure the nice cleanest of possible photographs. So I'm going to paint the inside of my camera. Notice I'm calling it a camera now and not just a box. I'm going to paint the inside of my camera with black paint. If you happen to have a cylindrical container instead of a rectangular one, the way that you go about cutting the hole for the center, for the lens, again, is pretty much the same, but since you don't have any corners to measure from and to, we have to go a little bit differently to figure out the height. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the first thing is I'm going to take the lid off the can. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line up the end of the ruler. Right here I have a little mark in from the end of the ruler. You can see that there. I'm going to line that up with the bottom, and I'm going to look at the top and I'm going to say that says 9.5. Half of 9 is 4.5, and half of a half is a quarter. So at 4 3/4, I'm going to put a mark. 4 3/4. I'm going to put a mark. That's my center mark. Okay, kind of like we did earlier. I'm going to move that up to the 1/2 inch. I'm going to put a mark at 4 and at 5. I'm going to take my hand again, like I did before. Make sure that's lined up down here. I'm going to make that T-square, and I'm just going to come a little bit to the side. And I'm going to put that mark at the 4 and the 5 again. These may be a little hard to see because of the writing that's on the can. So after you put those marks on and you're sure that they're in the middle, then you can come back with a Sharpie so that you can really see those lines there. Okay, I'm going to connect them using my ruler. And there are the first 2 lines, top and bottom. This second part is a little bit different though, right? Because again, I don't have those it's going to be hard to measure from here to here because it always keeps changing. So what I'm going to do is I will take my ruler and I'm going to see where it lines up kind of best. I'm going to say, I'm going to put a mark at the 9 here. Whoops. It's hard because it rolls, but we want that to happen with this part. I'm going to put a mark at the 9. And I'll roll it and put a mark at the 10. Alrighty. And then, if I put my ruler flat against the bottom here and line it up with those marks that I just made at the 9 and the 10, I'm sure that it's going straight up and down. Okay, the bottom of the ruler is flush with the bottom of the container, and then I can just make that line at 9 and make that line again. Make sure it's good and flush at the bottom, and make that second line at 10 and cut it out just the same way as I did on the rectangular box using the X-Acto knife.